Virtual classroom management about diverse learners' behavior, basis for proposed intervention program. Research problem. What are the different strategies used in handling diverse learners in a virtual classroom as the basis for the proposed intervention program? Research question. 1. What is the mean level of virtual classroom management in handling diverse learners as the basis for the proposed intervention program? 2. Is there a significant relationship between the level of virtual classroom management to diverse learners' behavior as the basis for the proposed intervention program? A teacher is central and formal to the whole education system. Therefore, a positive attitude towards the teaching profession plays an important role. The attitude is a dynamic entity that gets influenced by variables like age, previous experience, beliefs, gender, residential background, and type of institution. Moore, 2012. McStan, 2013, said that teacher necessitates to be culturally responsive and employ the cultural characteristics, experiences, and perspectives of diverse students as conduits for more effective teaching. Cultural and linguistic diversity is a valuable resource, and schools and educators must reject the deficit model of thinking, i.e., that differ from the norm constitutes a flaw or drawback. Chevalier Amp, Mackenzie, 2012. According to Gay, 2012, 5 components describe culturally responsive teaching: developing a knowledge base of cultural diversity, designing culturally relevant curricula, demonstrating cultural caring and learning communities, cross-cultural communication, and building cultural congruity in classroom instruction. Weinstein et al. 2014, divided the concept of culturally responsive classroom management into 5 themes, discussed individually below: recognition of one's ethnocentrism and biases, knowledge of students' cultural background, awareness of the broader social, economic and political context, ability and willingness to use culturally appropriate management strategies, and a commitment to building caring classroom communities. According to Johnson, 2014, the model outlined for culturally responsive classroom management aligns with recent classroom management models that move away from behaviorism to focus on the importance of social decision-making, self-regulation, and community building. An essential component of culturally responsive classroom management is a teacher's understanding of his or her own culture, ethnocentrism, and biases. Often, teachers, specifically white teachers, view their own culture as neutral and universal and are unaware of their own racial identities. Norman, 2014. Teachers need to immerse themselves in the lives of their students, both inside the classroom and with extracurricular activities. Miller, 2012. A teacher trying to understand his or her own culture should begin with perspectives on race, racism, social justice, and perceived marginalization. Teachers must move away from a colorblind approach, and white teachers must uncover their whiteness and understand white privilege. The process is one of self-discovery that requires teachers to delve deeply into their own biases, beliefs, and views. Jackson, 2012. Teachers' and students' identities, behaviors, experiences, and worldviews are formed by race. Because of this, a teacher cannot use the colorblind approach in his or her teaching. Milner, 2012. Teachers need to understand themselves about others, including students and families. Milner Amp, Tenori, 2012. Teachers need to use the diversity of the classroom to make learning exciting and fun for students. Shobe, 2013. Winston, 2014, proposed a training model that begins with creating a safe environment for students to develop awareness, followed by coursework introducing cultural awareness, holding a mock or experiential group learning activity, and concluding with ways teachers can apply culturally responsive classroom management strategies to current teaching lessons. Immersion is particularly important when the cultures of students and their teachers do not match. Teachers can also learn from other experienced teachers and community members, as well as engage in professional development on their students' cultures. McCarthy Amp, Benali, 2013. The process of understanding students' cultures must include families as well, through outreach efforts by teachers and schools. Monroe, 2013. Culture and communication are inseparable, and establishing congruent communication is another component of learning about students' cultures. Brown, 2014. Communicating in culturally responsive ways can include using terms of endearment and humor, discourse style, familiar words and expressions, references to pop culture, and straightforward directives. Bundy et al., 2017. Joshi, Eberly, and Consul, 2015, explained that when teaching children with backgrounds that are different from one's own, one must open up communication to create a learning environment. Teachers need to gain insight into the beliefs, practices, and values of the students in their classroom. According to Lasky, 2012, interactions between teachers and parents can be loaded with emotion. Elements of status and power cannot be separated from moral purposes. Moral purposes are developed by the communities and cultures from which individuals come. Gonzalez-Mina, 2012, discussed the ways that beliefs affect communication, citing as an example that teachers sometimes regard the way they do things as the right or neutral way. Instead, teachers need to continue their learning, gaining insight from others about perspectives they have not considered. Teachers must scrutinize their curriculum in all forms and teach for culturally irrelevant or unjust practices. Johnson, 2012. Views on classroom management must move away from privileging obedience and control toward the idea of teaching students to excel with others and be productive. Alachi, 2014. Classroom management must be viewed as creating opportunities for students to learn, not controlling students or their behavior. Miller, 2011. Teachers should base perceptions of students' behavior on learning. Monroe, 2014. Teachers using culturally responsive classroom management strategies establish a positive psychological environment that supports student resilience and achievement. Bundy, 2017. Attitude, according to Silva, 2014, any subject dealt with a person, situation, or the positive or negative attitude toward the event is defined. According to Pappas, 2016, individual objects, people, places, events took place against the pro and cons, and the emotional tendency of ideas are expressed in the form. Attitudes, in a particular social object that exists in individuals, and cognitive, affective, behavioral, latent tendencies which refer to the sides. Attitude for an individual object as well as a substance or a group, a professional may also. The attitude of the profession is a profession of the individual that affects success and satisfaction. Sword, 2014. A teacher's attitude is an enduring perceptual organization of belief and learned tendency to react favorably or unfavorably to different degrees that determine his actual or potential responses towards teaching. Allport, 2015, defines attitude as a mental or neutral state of readiness, organized through experience, exerting a directive or dynamic influence on the individual's response to all objects and situations to which it is related. In this definition, he broadened the scope of attitude and suggested that it formulates with the experience of a person in his surroundings. The term attitude is defined by Freeman, 1965, as a dispositional readiness to respond to certain situations, persons, objects or ideas in a consistent manner, which has been learned and has become one's typical mode of response. It is a tendency to react in a certain way towards a designated class of stimuli. According to Malinte Pang, 2013, teachers' positive attitudes are fundamental to effective teaching. A teacher must be interesting. The favorable attitude towards teaching is likely to prove helpful to teachers in maintaining cordial relationships characterized by mutual affection and sympathetic understanding. Hughes, 2015, said that once teachers start the work of understanding themselves and their students culturally, they can begin to reflect on classroom management practices. Cultural diversity becomes a tool that teachers should constantly consider when thinking about classroom management, even if it makes them uncomfortable. She describes a set of tasks that teachers must use to ensure they are reflective, culturally responsive classroom managers. Those tasks are discussed in the following section and include: creating a physical setting that supports social and academic goals, creating and maintaining high expectations for behavior, communicating with students in culturally consistent ways, creating inclusive classrooms, communicating and working with families, and using appropriate interventions to help students with behavior problems. Polly, 2013. Clement, 2012, mentioned that culturally responsive classroom managers as those who view their physical environment critically through a culturally responsive lens. Teachers should understand the importance of communication style and the direct impact that it has on student behavior. Should communication styles differ between student and teacher, it is the responsibility of the teacher to explicitly teach the students about that communication style. In some cases, teachers may also choose to modify their communication or discourse style to best meet the needs of the students they teach. Cultural consistency, according to Powell, 2017. In an article on culturally responsive teaching, Howard, 2012, explained that cultural consistency creates a level of continuity between school and home, helping students to cognitively connect with the concepts they are learning. Teachers should seek out discourse patterns, person-to-person interactions, and phrases that are consistent with what is used at home. Research synthesis. A virtual classroom is a digital learning environment that allows teachers and students to connect online in real time. Virtual classrooms utilize video conferencing, online whiteboards, and screen sharing to allow educators to hold live lectures, virtual office hours, and discussions with students in an interactive setting. Virtual classrooms are meant to replicate the experience of physical classrooms, with the added benefits of file sharing, instant feedback, and interaction, and are ideal in distance learning situations. This research does contribute to the development of my idea. Initially, the title was appealing to me because it seemed to refer to teaching methodologies which are my area of interest. However, after reading it, I realized that the findings were relevant especially in managing virtual classrooms among diverse learners in this new normal. A virtual classroom is a digital learning environment that allows teachers and students to connect online in real time. Virtual classrooms utilize video conferencing, online whiteboards, and screen sharing to allow educators to hold live lectures, virtual office hours, and discussions with students in an interactive setting. Virtual classrooms are meant to replicate the experience of physical classrooms, with the added benefits of file sharing, instant feedback, and interaction, and are ideal in distance learning situations. This research does contribute to the development of my idea. Initially, the title was appealing to me because it seemed to refer to teaching methodologies which are my area of interest. However, after reading it, I realized that the findings were relevant especially in managing virtual classrooms among diverse learners in this new normal. Instruction should still be differentiated. Some benefits come with online classroom management strategies. For example, holding discussions over a computer makes it more difficult for a few students to dominate the debate and potentially helps all students have a voice. In a virtual classroom, you control what students are looking at more directly than in an in-person class, and you can use that to your advantage. As you're sharing your screen, making slides, or even picking your webcam background, decide on visual cues that can indicate particular actions. Proposed title: Virtual Classroom Management about Diverse Learners' Behavior, Basis for Proposed Intervention Program. The general objective is to assess the virtual classroom management and handling diverse learners as the basis for the proposed intervention program. And specific objectives: to identify the different strategies used in handling diverse learners in a virtual classroom as a basis for the proposed intervention program. To determine the relationship between virtual classroom management to diverse learners' behavior as the basis for the proposed intervention program.